legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you enter the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Making a lot out of nothing.
What is your promise, sir? If he doesn't do the things that you want him to do, would you be okay with DOJ reopening its investigation into him? The Department of Justice gets rid of the charges against him, and then poof, he agrees. Let me just, to be fair, she said that
public safety threats escaping.
She said that she is just offering civil education.
Vaguely aware of immigration law. I've done this since 1984. I forgot more about the immigration law than AOC will ever know. Matter of fact, the hearing a couple years ago, I had explained to her that entering the country illegally was actually a crime.
What's going on, guys? We got to talk about border czar Tom Homan cooking Dana trash. So this woman out here on Clown News Network, Crying Negro Network, is out here trying to concoct a story where Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, okay, this guy, most of y'all know about his charges that he had, and his charges were effectively dropped by the DOJ. Okay, this is something that Trump had demanded that this occur. And now they're trying to say, oh, well, this looks like it was quid pro quo. Basically, you help us secure the border, maybe we drop the charges for you. Now, does it potentially look like that? Yeah, I mean, you could definitely make that argument. However, is this something that is newsworthy? Like, who really cares if New York Mayor Eric Adams had stupid charges for having his flights paid for free, or upgrading him from business class to first class? Stupid stuff, guys. People in the country are dying and starving and all kinds of stuff, but they care about whether or not he had his flight increased, his flight improved by some foreign national or something. And in addition, they care about whether Donald Trump is trying to secure the border by dropping these charges, stuff that most Americans would consider completely irrelevant. The only reason why it's relevant to this video is because you got still hundreds of thousands of missing children, hundreds of thousands of missing children, migrant children. You still have the border invasion, like more new people are coming in, but the problems that were created by that are still ongoing. You still got tons of homelessness. You still got people recovering in North Carolina and in California, right? Like, you got crime still rampant that's not really particularly under control, especially in liberal cities. The economy is floundering. You got a lot of different things going on. There's all kinds of scandals as it relates to the LGBTQ community, especially some of these trans weirdos out here graping children in schools. Like, there's so much stuff going on, but no, quid pro quo. That's all they care about. That's why I call her Dana trash. And on top of that, Tom Homan cooks AOC for questioning him about the border, like something he's worked on for like a good chunk of his life. AOC, I mean, I don't know if she's ever done any work as it relates to immigration. All she does is screech and scream all the time. And she's one of the people who, if somebody needs to get prosecuted for anything, she should be one of the top targets to have in prison for aiding and abetting illegal immigration and assisting illegal criminals with evading the federal law enforcement. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and react to what Dana Trash had to say to border czar Tom Homan.
I just want to ask directly, you met on Thursday with the New York mayor, and he announced then that he would give ICE agents access to the prison on Rikers Island. You called that a game changer. A few days before Adams made that announcement, the Justice Department instructed prosecutors to drop federal corruption charges against him. It sounds like the DOJ dropped the case against Adams, and in exchange, he let you into Rikers. Is that what happened?
No, I think that's ridiculous. Me and Mayor Adams met a couple months ago. I think it was probably eight, 9 weeks ago we met. We had the same discussion. And we talked about getting a presence in Rikers Island. We talked about how we can collaborate on public safety threats and finding the missing children that can't be found after they release their sponsors. And we had that a couple months ago.
Did you guys notice how they never talk about the missing children, how they never talk about the criminal gangs, including Trende Aragua and like Laken Riley's name and Jocelyn Nungary and Rachel Moore. And these names keep going around. The Republicans keep talking about it. Fox News talks about it. They never talk about any of this stuff on Clown News Network. They never talk about any of that. Americans are talking about it. Why the hell don't they?
The discussion. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. Matter of fact, the meeting was very well. It was the same meeting we had a few weeks ago. The reason we had the follow-up meeting because there's no action being done. So we follow up on how we can get some of this stuff in place, and that's what the meeting Thursday was about.
Right. I mean, you absolutely have been honest about the fact that you met with Adams before in December, I think it was. You came away from that meeting really unsatisfied. What changed between then and now other than the Department of Justice dropping the case against Adams?
No, I didn't come out of that meeting unsatisfied. I was after several weeks, I was taken back that we hadn't gotten any action on that yet about getting Rikers Island. So we rescheduled a meeting to talk. Okay, well, we talked about how what things we need to put in place, how we can make this happen. So let's get going. Let's take some steps forward, and that's what the meeting Thursday about. And we came out Thursday with a plan. We also talked about how we can collaborate on the missing children, many that are being in New York City, and that's what we talked about. I really don't think it had anything to do with whatever.
Let's see if we make it through this meeting, this stupid interview, and Dana Bash says anything about the gangs, the missing children, or any of the crimes being committed, rather than just focusing on quid pro quo and whether or not Eric Adams is doing a favor for Trump or for Tom Homan, because that clearly seems to be the only thing she's interested in. Everything is all about catching Trump. It's all about gotchas with these people. It's never about the actual constituents, the actual Americans, which I don't understand how they don't realize that this is not a winning strategy. Like, is their strategy like just to be adversarial towards Trump and Republicans no matter what? That's what it seems like to me.
Go on Justice Department. We never talked about that. It's kind of out of my lane. I've been talking to the mayor for months about getting in Rikers Island, and that's what we talked about.
Yeah, and I totally understand you do not work in the Department of Justice, but you do work in the broader Trump administration. And, you know, just as somebody who is in law enforcement, you call yourself a cop, just looking at the series of events, sir, the fact that you didn't get what you wanted, you came away not sure why he wasn't doing what you wanted him to do, particularly with opening Rikers. The Department of Justice gets rid of the charges against him, and then poof, he agrees.
Look, the first meeting, if you look at my interview after the first meeting, I said to the whole world, I've called that mayor out for a couple of years because I didn't think he was doing the right thing as far as public safety threats. And that first meeting back in December, I said to everybody that interviewed me, for the first time I saw the cop in him. I saw the cop come out of him. He talked about how he wants public safety threats removed from New York City. He wants illegal alien crime to decrease in New York City. I just think, you know, people are making a lot about nothing. I mean, again, I went up there as the ICE director, now the borders are, and we collaborated on how to move illegal alien crime, decrease it down in New York City, and find the worst of the worst. And that's what we talked about. It was cop to cop. Not borders are to mayor, cop to cop. And we talked about the public safety threats and how they should be removed from our communities. And that's what was in the conversation. So this is a conversation between two cops having a good time.
What is your promise?
And people are making a lot out of nothing.
What is your promise, sir?
My promise is I'm not going to ask those officers to be immigration officers. I'm not going to push them to enforce immigration law. I told them I want to arrest the bad guy. I want to arrest the public safety threats. I want to get Rikers Island so we can get the public safety threat before they're released to the street. I want his help, especially the NYPD intelligence unit, who's the finest intelligence apparatus in the world, to help me find missing children. There are probably many are in forced labor, many are going to be in forced sex trafficking. Not all of them, but many of them. And that's a promise I made to him. Do you do law enforcement stuff? Help me get the public safety threats into children. I'm never going to ask you to arrest an illegal alien, and that is my promise. Not to make them immigration officers, but make them cops working with cops.
So if he doesn't do the things that you want him to do, would you be okay with DOJ reopening its investigation into him? Should they do that?
That's out of my lane. I'm a border czar. I care about the border. So let DOJ do what they do.
Why would you ask something like this? Well, if he doesn't do, I mean, should they prosecute him if he doesn't do what you want him to? I mean, what do you expect? I don't understand these people. What do you expect them to say? Hell yeah, prosecute. If he don't do it, I say that they just lock him up. Like, these people are so stupid. Even if that's what he wanted, why the hell would he tell you that, Dana? Are you
We're removing public safety threats from the country as President Trump's promised the American people.
Credit Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for hosting a webinar for immigrants called Know Your Rights with ICE. I want to play what you said.
Is that impeding our law enforcement efforts? If so, what are we going to do about it? Is she crossing the line? So I'm working with the Department of Justice and finding out where is that line that they cross. So maybe AOC is going to be in trouble now.
Are you suggesting that she should be prosecuted?
I'm suggesting, and I'd ask the Department of Justice, where's that line on impediment, right? It's a broad statute. So I know impeding is someone stopping in front of me and putting their hands on my chest so you're not coming in here and arrest that guy. That's clearly impeding. But at what line, where's the line on impeding? So I'm asking the Department of Justice, who are the prosecutors, and decide who they prosecute and what the standards of that prosecution is. I simply says, at what point is that impeding? Because you can call it know your rights all you want. We all know what the bottom line is. The bottom line is how they invade law enforcement. Don't open your door. Don't answer questions. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about people here in the country legally with a criminal conviction who had due process at great taxpayer expense and were ordered deported by a federal judge, but became a fugitive. And we're talking about don't open your door to ICE. You know, you don't have to answer questions. I think it's more about how to invade law enforcement, not to get arrested, even though there's a federal warrant for your arrest. How to evade that rather than know your rights. Now, we can argue about that all day long. They have the right to know their rights. The Constitution said they have the right to certain rights, but also, I hope to God we're not, educating people are going to be the next murder of a college student. I've said it before. If we would have had access to the man who murdered Laken Riley in New York, he would never make the Georgia killing.
Let me just, to be fair, she said that
public safety threats escaping.
She said that she is just offering civil education and that you might be, quote, vaguely familiar with the U.S. immigration law, but that she's just doing what she needs to do to remind people the law of the land passed by congressional statute.
Vaguely aware of immigration law. I've done this since 1984. I forgot more about the immigration law than AOC will ever know. Matter of fact, the hearing a couple of years ago, I had explained to her that entering the country illegally was actually a crime. So, I'm not simply made a statement. When you sit down with people who are wanted by us, criminal aliens that have been ordered deported from the United States government, and ignore that order, if you and I ignored that order, we'd be sitting in prison. But they ignored an order from a federal judge. They're hiding in a home, and she's telling them not to open the door. Now, I'm not saying that's illegal. What I'm saying is, I asked the Attorney General, at what point is it impeding and what point is it not impeding? So I'm simply, as a board is asking the Office of the Attorney General, where does it draw the line? So we make sure we give ICE agents the proper standard when they go to these homes. They don't open the door. At what point can you open the door? At what point can't you open the door? Mm-hmm. So we just want to be sure that ICE officers are doing the right thing. So this is about talking to Attorney General, because every Attorney General interprets things different. What is your interpretation of impeding? Where's that line at? I think it's a responsible thing to do as the borders are of the United States, to make sure the men and women of ICE understand what they can and can't do.
Yeah, and of course, right now, being undocumented is a civil offense and not a criminal one, unless you commit those crimes. Thank you so much.
I love how Dana Trash here loves to try to get the last word in every interview that she does with anyone that is conservative leaning, but she just kind of allows the Democrats to run amok. But here are the facts. If you enter the country, especially more than once illegally, which a lot of these people do, they get deported and then they come back, then at that point it is automatically, most certainly, considered a criminal offense, not some sort of civil infraction. In addition to that, even for civil infractions, so someone just happens to just walk across the border one time illegally, they are automatically subject to deportation, regardless of how it makes Dana Trash and AOC feel about it. What I think needs to happen is all this toying around that's being done with the verbiage and all of these stupid technicalities. In my opinion, what really needs to happen, and the only way to really shut this down for good, is if you have Congress draft law. Like, we got the House and the Senate. In my opinion, Congress needs to be moving faster. Trump is doing his thing, but it's just executive orders. all of this stuff could change with another president if they happen to be a Democrat president, hell, or even a Republican president. So what really needs to happen is they need to get in Congress, they need to get their butts in order and start passing legislation. They have the votes to where they should be able to pretty much pass almost anything for conservative-leaning bills. And what needs to happen is they need to change some immigration law to where if you do anything that even comes close to skating along the lines of any type of impediment, then effectively you are subject to criminal prosecution yourself. Even if the illegal alien isn't subject to it, if you are aiding and abetting or allowing them to evade, educating them about things that may allow them to better evade Customs and Border Patrol and ICE, being able to secure them and remove them from the country, whether they are criminal or whether they commit criminal or civil infractions. This is something where the law should prevent this, because you got too many sanctuary cities. You got too many people out here trying to skirt the law and find stupid ways around it. Anything that allows you, there needs to be more broad language to where anything that you're doing that allows these people to effectively evade ICE should be eliminated, and it should be considered criminal, where if you do it, you automatically go to jail. But those are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
What she needs to do is read the statutes enacted by Congress. Title 8, United States Code 1324, United States. Title 8, United States Code 1324 and 25. That's what she needs to read, because it's illegal to enter this country. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. Not only that, when you harbor and conceal and impede law enforcement, that's a felony. So what she's doing, she says she's, educating them as to constitutional rights. And we all know they got constitutional rights, but what she's really doing, you and I and the rest of the country knows, she's trying to teach them how to evade law enforcement. Now, I just said, well, out of the gate, we're concentrating on public safety threats, national security threats. So she's educating those in the country illegally with a significant criminal conviction, public safety threat. Let's hope she's not educating the next person who gets out and murders a young college student in Georgia.